Are you considering moving to Destin, Florida, and you're wondering what are the locations nearby that people love to live in? Stick around. We're going to do a deep dive in this video for you of the suburbs of Destin. We get calls all the time from folks that just love the Destin area, whether you visited or you lived here previously. Maybe you grew up here, joined the military, had to leave, and then now you want to come back. Folks are always wanting to move here because we have some of the most amazing beaches, some really great nightlife. You're really close to the airports. There's so many activities, not just on the beach or on the water, but we've got golf courses. We've got, what's that place? Big Kahunas.
Yeah.
You know, we've got so much fun stuff here. And not to mention the people are pretty all right. You know, we live here. People are pretty cool. So lots of folks actually love this area, but there are also some downfalls to living in Destin, like the tourism, and it can get kind of loud. The streets can get pretty packed with traffic, especially during peak seasons. So a lot of folks, whether they're wanting to have quick access to Destin for work or just for being able to be close and enjoy it, don't really want to live in Destin proper, especially folks with families that want to be able to get their kids to school pretty easily. And so they're asking us, you know, which suburbs would actually be the best to live in if we want to be close to Destin, but not necessarily in Destin. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Now, there might be a lot of different reasons why you would want to live in one of the suburbs or nearby towns, and those generally include that maybe you want a bigger lot, you want a little bit better feel, or the pricing is definitely a really big one. The housing market inside of Destin proper is actually considerably more expensive than some of our neighboring towns.
As a quick admin note, I'm AJ and this is
Andrew.
And we're your local real estate professionals with the Emerald Group right here in the Destin area. We're doing videos every week from Pensacola to Panama City Beach. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ding the bell so that you get notified every time we do another video. If you're one of our returning subscribers, thank you. We love you guys. Thank you for coming and watching all our videos. We love hearing from you. So keep the comments down below coming.
So if you're not actually going to live inside of Destin and you do want to live in one of the suburbs or surrounding areas, where are you going to live? Well, there's three main ones that we really want to talk about today. You can head directly east, but that's going to feel very similar to Destin, so it's not really going to solve these issues. So we're going to start out in Fort Walton Beach, which is just to the west of Destin, and then just to the north of Destin, you'll have Niceville, and then just a little bit northeast, you will have Freeport. And those are going to be the three big cities that we talk about today.
Fort Walton Beach is one of the, I would say, one of the top areas that folks that want to live in Destin, but either don't have the funds to, or they come down and they experience it and they're like, maybe I don't want to live so close. Fort Walton Beach seems to be like a top choice for those types of folks. It's another great option if you're working on base, whether you're at whether you're at Hurlburt or Eglin, you're in close proximity because you're kind of between both of them. So something that you're going to see with Fort Walton Beach is, yes, some lower price points compared with Destin, but a bit of an older community. It's kind of a well-established area. You're not going to see a whole lot of, you know, new developments. You'll see some, you know, custom builds every now and again, but for the most part, you're going to see kind of smaller houses, maybe some funky floor plans here and there. But for the most part, they're going to be older properties.
One of the things I like most about the Fort Walton Beach area above the other two is that it is going to be a little bit more centered around nightlife. Now, I don't want you to get confused. This isn't going to be a big party town, but it is going to be more so than the other two. So if you're single or maybe a younger couple, or you know what, even a married couple with like a ton of kids, if you like going out and going to restaurants and things like that, Fort Walton Beach is really going to have you covered there to where you're not going to have to go into Destin for everything. So if you do want to stay within, you know, a few minutes of everything, that would be, you know, that's something you can definitely do. And one really cool thing about the Fort Walton Beach area is there is a whole area of the town that you can ride golf carts in, go to the downtown area, and then have access to all of those restaurants and, you know, bars and nightlife and just everything that downtown Fort Walton has to offer.
There's so much to do there. We've got golf courses, we've got shopping, there are multiple restaurants, and we've got great viewed restaurants as well too, like on the water. So you're not really missing out on anything that Destin has to offer, but it's got more of a locals feel essentially, where Destin has become super kind of commercialized and tourist, you know, focused. A lot of the Fort Walton Beach area, even though you can still make some great money doing Airbnb or even long-term rentals, we tend to see more long-term people there, and the options are still great. We've still got great food and great opportunities for work as well. You know, we've got some hospitals there. We've got the bases there. So really and truly everything that you need is there. It's an older community, like we said. So everything, all the infrastructure has already been done. The road systems are like a grid. So when there's traffic, it's kind of easy to just get around it. You're not limited to just 98, unlike the majority of Destin. Now you can get back there on like Airport Road and avoid some of it, but it's very kind of parallel and linear. Whereas with Fort Walton Beach, it literally is like a grid. You can get in and out of things pretty easily, which is very convenient for someone who hates traffic.
And for those looking to save a little bit of money, one of the biggest advantages is the housing prices are considerably less here. So if you're an entry-level buyer, a first-time home buyer, out of the 3 areas we're talking about, this is going to be a really great area to be in. Now, one of the other cities we'll talk about may have its advantages there too, but this is still a really good one, with the average price being around $350,000. Now, I know you're hearing, well, that might not be an entry-level buyer. For me, that's perfectly fine. We still have stuff lower than that. Please keep in mind that is an average, not what every single one starts at. So if you're looking to get into an area for a little bit better price, then that is going to be a pretty solid choice.
Something else that's really cool about Fort Walton Beach is kind of the same thing that people go to Destin for, these amazing beaches. You have some of the best beach access actually in Fort Walton Beach. So whenever you're in Fort Walton Beach proper, if you go kind of southeast, then you're going to go onto Okaloosa Island, which is still a part of Fort Walton Beach. And there are so many public beach accesses along there. Even though so many times you try to go to the beach and you're like, oh man, there's no parking. There's so many access points along Okaloosa Island that it's inevitable that you're going to find parking somewhere. You're going to be able to go to the beach. And that's something really awesome that Fort Walton Beach offers. And there are also parks all over the place. I mean, you've got dog parks, you've got regular parks. There's Liza Jackson, and that has some really great events. We have so many events.
Yeah, a ton of events. And before we go into that, I do want to add on to the beaches real quick too, because one of the really big advantages of the Fort Walton Beach beaches is that you don't have these huge high rises where everybody's funneling into the beach in one area. So they're limited to 7 floors for every condo on the island. So that means that your neighbors and the beach in general is not going to be near as stacked as Destin. And going back into the events, yes, Fort Walton Beach does events. Now, Destin does events better, or they do more. Okay, they do more. That's what I will say. But Fort Walton Beach is a very close second. In fact, out of the 3 areas we're talking about, it definitely takes first place out of those 3. So you've got stuff like Billy Bowlegs, which is one that I missed for so many years when I was out here. It is a huge event where they basically kind of reenact the settlers and the pirates kind of fighting and taking over this entire area. So we literally have a gigantic pirate ship that has fake cannons and stuff on it, and they beach it. I don't think they actually beach it. I think they actually I've never actually been on the water for that portion of it, but they do this whole reenactment. There's a parade. They do this thing where they storm the beach and the mayor tries to chase them down, and he gets run out of town for a little bit, and then he comes back. It's a really good time. So for families, that's obviously a really good time, but make sure if you are staying there with families that you leave a little bit earlier before it starts creeping into the nighttime, because it does start getting a little bit more fun and rowdy, and so you might want
more adult-like.
Yeah, a bit more adult-like. And that's just one of many events. There's always something going on downtown, whether it's beer fest, margarita, what is it, margaritas and tacos or whatever, tequila and tacos. There we go. There's wine festivals. There's what do they call it? Where you
like
all
Latin
the little
festivals,
knickknacks, and then
everything.
Those little things where you just, what do they call it? Why is it on the tip of my tongue? I gotta freaking pause now. Okay, I had to stop the video to think of the dang name, but farmers markets, okay? There are farmers markets and stuff in downtown Fort Walton as well. You've got the landing there, and there's just something going on all the time. So there's just never a lack of something to do in Fort Walton Beach.
It's really cool. If you've got kids, there are some great neighborhoods that put on some amazing shows, like not shows, but like light shows. They'll decorate their houses for Halloween or for Christmas. It's super fun. Very family-friendly area. So much to do. You've got varying price points. You've got price points from, starter to kind of average area, and you can get some higher end properties as well, especially if you get to something on the water. It's going to be a bit of a higher price point. So it's really got everything that you could possibly want and still super close proximity to Destin.
And before we move on to the next city too, please keep in mind that we do videos on each one of these. So if you just go into our YouTube channel and type up in the search bar which city it is, so if you want to learn more about Fort Walton Beach, just type that in, and a ton of videos will come out so that you can see everything for Fort Walton has to offer.
The next area that we're going to cover is Niceville. Niceville is going to be just north of Destin, or you can go through Fort Walton Beach and kind of head northeast and you're going to run into Niceville as well. This is a really, really great locals and family-friendly area with very, very quick access to Eglin. I don't know that I would want to live there if I was working on Hurlburt Field. Speaking mostly to the military and government folks, government contractors, just because we get a lot of y'all down here. But Niceville is a great place to live, whether you're military, contractor, or otherwise. You've got the Twin Cities Hospital right there, so plenty of work for nurses, doctors alike. There's something for everybody, once again, in Niceville, except if you're looking for nightlife, in which case you're probably gonna have to cross the bridge.
Yeah, it is lacking a little bit in that area. There are some pretty cool breweries and restaurants and stuff that are there. In fact, my favorite pizza place is there, but I'm gonna be honest, it's only the pizza that is good. Everything else about the place isn't super great. But the pizza is really good. And on top of that, Niceville is kind of known as, it's probably our most popular area for people that are looking for great schools and things related to schools, extracurricular activities and things like that. Their high school in particular is probably the thing that I hear most boasted about in Niceville. It is a very big pride point of Niceville in general. So overall, if you're looking for a great place for your kids to go to school, then this might be a nice place to go.
Oh my God. We talked about some of the parks and such over in Fort Walton Beach. The parks in Niceville, I feel like they can't be beat.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're so good. And there's so many of them, so many boat launches and accesses. You can put in your jet skis, your boat. And I'm going to say we kind of combine Niceville and Valparaiso because Valparaiso is super tiny and they're like right there. So know that when we're talking about Niceville, we're kind of incorporating Valparaiso as well. Not necessarily in our price point that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but as far as the things that you can do. So we've got parks everywhere, like Lincoln Park, Lions Park, Turkey Creek, Kiwanis Park.
Lincoln Park?
Yeah, like the band.
I didn't even know that. I'm learning something new. Thank you, AJ.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite parks to take Sage to. They've got like a big old, bayside beach there, which is perfect for taking the kids in. You've got shallow waters. You've got White Point over there by the bridge on the north side. So many parks. It's just incredible. So you could go to a different park every week with your kids, every weekend, and just go exploring. And you could keep going and rotating through them and probably find something new at each one. You've got fishing you can do. You can get out on boats, kayaks, whatever. You can tube down Turkey Creek. And Turkey Creek is really great for runners. So for me, I really dislike, my foot's broken, so I'm not running anywhere right now, but maybe on my dreams. But when I was running, I really liked running at Turkey Creek because it's all boardwalk. So you get a little extra bounce, so the impact isn't so hard when you're running and you've got all this beautiful, trees and swamp over there and watching the people tube by all leisurely while you're getting a workout in, sweating your butt off, but no big deal. But it's a really great route for your runners and you don't have to worry about cars hitting you, which is really lovely.
That's one of my favorite things about running is not getting hit by cars.
That's not how I broke my foot.
I don't run. Now, when it comes to the property that you're going to be spending a ton of time in, that is one thing that Niceville does a little bit different, but there are some similarities with Destin. First and foremost, the pricing is about the same. So even though you're not getting all the amazing beaches and stuff, because of all the other things we talked about, the parks, the infrastructure, the schools, and just the proximity of where it is to the base and, base is technically, that is why the prices are a little bit more high. And of course, it being landlocked, you can't build anywhere else in Niceville. There's a few pockets here or there that some big families own that might eventually get built up, but for right now, it's kind of locked out. So that's going to drive the prices up. But with that average price point of around $420,000 as of the time that we're shooting this video, you do get some extra stuff that you wouldn't get in Destin, primarily a bigger lot.
And larger square footage. And speaking of proximity, you still have that super close proximity to Destin. It does take a bridge that you have to get over and you do have to pay for it. And it's a little bit pricey compared with other tolls, but it means that you've got some separation between you and all of the noisy action and traffic. Niceville experiences a little bit of traffic, but it's nothing compared to Destin whatsoever. So really not an issue. And again, you have all of those little bay accesses, little kind of dark sandy beaches, we'll say, because it's the brackish water. And so it's not white sand, but it's still super enjoyable if you didn't want to fight. Oh my gosh. Sage and I, my daughter and I, we used to live over in Niceville and we would go over to White Point all the time. It's never busy over there. Never have to fight for parking. parking. There was no question about, oh, should we leave now to make sure that we get a spot over at the beach? Or no, we could leave anytime we wanted. We were 15 minutes where we live from any of the Niceville beaches. So that's definitely something that you could do. Are the white sand, crystal blue water beaches nicer? Absolutely. But sometimes the parking situation makes it so that it's worth it. It's worth sacrificing that style beach to have convenience.
And of course, you've got more boat launches there than you do in any of the other cities we're going to talk about today, to include Destin. Mm-hmm. So you've got a lot more opportunity. If you have, watercraft that you're throwing into the water, you're not going to have to fight as hard. Fort Walton has a few spots, for instance, we just talked about that, but they do kind of fill up very quickly. So you do kind of have to think about that. When am I going to get out there? How painful is it going to be to get out there? If I'm not experienced backing up a trailer, am I going to look silly in front of a bunch of people? You're going to have a little bit less pressure out in Niceville.
All right, the last area that we're going to go over is Freeport. Freeport's a super kind of fun and interesting one for us because we've been watching it develop. It's still in its kind of early infrastructure days. And so there's a lot of potential there for increasing your value very quickly. Whereas with the other areas, they're pretty well established. Freeport has been growing for a couple of years now. We've seen places like Hammock Bay just start going through the roof. I remember when they first started, they were in the 200s, which was only 2-3 years ago. Yep. Now they're building in the 800s. So the ability to invest there, make it your primary residence, but watch that equity grow exponentially year over year.
Yeah, if you're looking for something that you're going to build equity in faster, out of all places we're talking about, Freeport is definitely it. And although Hammock Bay is building in the 800s, I do want to make clear that that is not what all of the homes that are being built in there are. That's just kind of the higher end cap to that.
For a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, this is the average that we've been giving you guys, 3 2s for our average prices, because that's what, the average family or person wants. So that's what we're kind of going with. You're going to spend about $396,000 for something like that on average at the time of shooting.
And with that price point, you've actually got a lot of different little areas and places to purchase in, including a lot of brand new construction, not just in Hammock Bay, but also in small pockets all around. And of course, Freeport is located right off of Highway 10 as well, so you can get to Pensacola or Panama City Beach if for whatever reason Destin is not going to hit, whatever little shopping bone you need. You've got 2 other slightly larger cities right on either side, and they're both fairly quick to get to from 10.
While Freeport doesn't offer a whole lot in nightlife, I would say they offer just about nothing in nightlife.
I can't think of anything, actually.
Yeah, there's really nothing out there. Chances are, if you're in Freeport, you're going to come down to Destin or go over to 30A and enjoy, some nightlife, some higher end dining experiences over there. However, they do put you a bit closer to the springs that we have here in the area. Like Morrison Springs, and there are a couple others over there. They're just directly north. You're just right there, and these springs are gorgeous, crystal clear water. It's a bit cold. I'm not gonna lie to you.
A little chilly.
Yeah, the water's kind of cold all year round, but it's gorgeous, and you can dive, you can snorkel, you can free swim, holding your breath, which is super scary, but really great for photo opportunities and just experiencing everything that the springs have. I took Sage out there one time with some friends. Actually, it was absolutely a core memory. We were out there on a kayak and it started storming, which was a little scary. So it's storming and it's cold and the water's cold, and so we're kind of stuck out there. But the friends that I was with were amazing. We made this shelter out of our kayak and some paddle boards, and we had some snacks and baggies and stuff. So we're just huddled under this makeshift shelter, and she's loving it. She didn't care at all. I had a garbage bag that I had brought for, in case we had any garbage, and I made sure it was clean, and I cut out a hole for her head and arms to keep her torso warm. So she was good, and then I was using my body heat in addition to that, because we weren't expecting, to get rained on and be freezing, but it was amazing. All that to say, there are some great adventures to have out there at the springs. If you're living in the Freeport area, you'll be very, very close to them and have some great opportunities to experience them.
If you are out there during a storm, please make sure you spring out of the water quickly.
Oh my God! I apologize.
And if you have any questions or you want to make a great comment about my outstanding jokes, all our information will pop up on the screen. You can call, text, email. You can comment down below. Find us on social media. However is best for you to communicate with us. We will, I guess, communicate back if we want to. We will, though. We will.
We will. We want to. If you're still with us, we must have entertained you or taught you something. So please go ahead and click on that thumbs up button so that we know we're doing a good job and other people know it as well. And we'll see you all in the next one.
See you guys.